All right, guys, it is January 23rd, 2025. I'm Dave Rubin. This is the Rubin Report. We are live streaming on your computer or your phone or your tablet, or maybe you got some kind of thing I don't know about, on Rumble, on YouTube, and on Locals. If you'd like to join for the post-game show, rubinreport.locals.com. And I saw a flurry of tweets yesterday that people were saying that you are subscribed on the YouTube channel. You've tapped that notification button. You're still not seeing the videos. So we are looking into that, but I would recommend, if you want to make sure you get every video and particularly the live streams notified directly to your phone, you don't have to pay a dime. You can just join us at rubinreport.locals.com, download that iOS or Android app, and you'll get a ding. Your phone will ding, and when it does, you've got Dave. We do have a post-game show after the show today, and we've got a Rubin Report Locals community Q&A, and we're just going to catch up on a bunch of the craziness, because there is a lot of craziness. And even though I would say the first 4-ish days here of this administration have been spectacular, the powers that be, the globalists, the people who have, really destroyed so much of what is good about the Western world, they're not just going to give up overnight. So we're going to take you halfway across the world, see what's going on over at the World Economic Forum. Their annual event is happening right now, and they've got the full cast of characters, highlighted by Klaus Schwab, of course, and then some good people there who are pushing back against a little bit of this nonsense. And if I'm not mistaken, can you confirm this? Is Donald Trump going to address them today? I think he might be Skyping in or something, unless I completely made that up. We'll find out in just moments, and then we will have a Rubin Report community Q&A for the second half of the show. So let's just dive right in. Klaus Schwab, you know this guy. He's the cartoon villain of all of this. He's sort of the Emperor Palpatine in our current reality. He is the guy in charge of the World Economic Forum. He wants you to own nothing and be happy while he flies on his private planes and all of that stuff. Here he is opening a conference, addressing the things that he and his other super elite rich people who think they're way better than you are concerned about.
We are coming together at a moment when the world faces critical challenges. Our annual risk report 2025 identifies the foremost risks, such as armed conflicts, extreme weather events, misinformation and disinformation, increasing divisions within societies, within countries, cyber espionage, and many more. Simultaneously, we stand at the brink of what we call here the intelligent age, where artificial intelligence and other groundbreaking technologies and innovations will fundamentally transform economic systems, business models, and personal lives. The transition from the industrial to the intelligent age is occurring at an exponential pace, carrying unprecedented risks for humanity, as we strive to prepare and to adapt to its complexities. Yet, it also offers significant opportunities for meeting current and future challenges and spark a new renaissance.
All right, we'll get into the analysis in just a sec. But first off, don't you have to admire that these people all got together, Klaus and the crew, and they were like, who's going to lead this thing? Who can we put out there to be the face of this thing? Can we find someone that, if this thing was a comic book or a superhero movie, would be the guy? You know, I always say Tom Homan would play himself in the movie. He's the guy that's supposed to be in charge of the deportations. Like Klaus Schwab, it's so on the button, it's so on the nose that it's almost ridiculous, right? Just the accent, everything about him, like, it's just, okay, fine. anyway, you can see what they are concerned about. Oh, and by the way, it wasn't a fever dream. I did read it. It is true. Donald Trump will be in via video conference later today. So we'll obviously cover that tomorrow. And I suspect he's going to kind of smack them down the way he smacked down some of the people that were behind his left-hand shoulder during inauguration a couple days ago. But some of the things he's worried about, armed conflicts. Okay, well, there's always armed conflicts. And actually right now in the world, it's not too crazy outside of Russia, Ukraine, right? The Israel-Hamas thing is calming down at least temporarily, and I think we're going to continue to see some movement over there. And they're really, you can see this administration really is going to push for Israel-Saudi normalization. So we'll see, but there's not like endless fighting going on there right now. So yeah, armed conflict, okay, fine. Armed conflict is kind of always happening. Weather, well, this is the big one for them, right? Because weather and climate change and all of that, this is the one where they really feel that they can kind of step on you and you'll eat what they want you to eat and you'll travel less. And maybe you'll only take 2 trips in a plane per year. And again, they're going to be doing all of those things. And this is how they will kind of rejigger the economy and all of that. We all see that in 15-minute cities and everything else. So conflicts, weather. Oh, and then of course, misinformation. How do you actually usher in all of the bad ideas, the totalitarian, authoritarian ideas that they have? It's by telling everybody that whoever stands against me and says, you know, I'm one man against the system, or I think differently, or I'm not so sure I want to live in that 15-minute city or eat sludge while you guys eat filet mignon, well, we've got to call them misinformation, right? And we have to attack the people, say Elon Musk, we'll have more on that in just a sec, who are making sure that the people actually have a voice. I will say that he's kind of right about what they're calling the information age, the intelligent age. Like, that is right. AI is here. It is rapidly escalating. I mean, every day you can see that ChatGPT or Grok get a little bit better. And I have a feeling that some of the tech is way better than we are even seeing as the consumers of this stuff, right? We're not seeing everything the day they figure it out. But it is rapidly expanding. And we are going to, I mean, everything is going to change. You will literally be able to go into a program and say, put me in an episode of Star Wars and make a movie about it, and it will produce it for you, and it will be right there, and it will look good, and all of those things. Like, and that's just one little thing. I mean, there's also science and medicine and all sorts of important applications. But the point is, yes, the intelligent age is here. The question is, do we want these people to lead us into it? Now I'm going to show you a video. It's 2 splice things. It's Spain's prime minister, who's a far lefty, and Germany's chancellor, who's also kind of a leftist, calling for censorship against, those extreme right-wing positions that, we hold.
I propose putting an end to anonymity on social media. In our countries, no one can walk the streets with a mask on their face or drive a car without a license plate. No one can send packages without showing an ID or buy a hunting weapon without giving their name. And yet, we are allowing people to roam freely on social networks without linking their profiles to a real identity. This paving the way for misinformation, hate speech, and cyber harassment.
So, on the question of the dealing of Elon Musk, I had a lot of things to comment in the past because he was discussing a lot about Europe. And just to repeat what I already said, we have the freedom of speech in Europe, and in Germany everyone can say what he wants, even if he is a billionaire. And what we do not accept is if this is supporting extreme right positions. And that is what I would like to repeat again.
Okay, so first off, the fact that they're always worried about the extreme right. Nobody ever gets up there and talks about the extreme left. And the reason they do that is the leftists on the street, the Antifa buffoons, and all of these people that are out there in the Hamas dingbats who are there with the gender queer unicorns and all that, they're the foot soldiers for this movement, right? They create the chaos on the ground so that these guys can then come in and say, oh, we will lead you to the new intelligent age. Just go in your home and stay in your 15-minute city and don't travel, and we'll protect you and all of those things, right? Like those who give up liberty for safety deserve neither. Was that, who said that? That was Thomas Jefferson? Who said that? I didn't just come up with that right there. Some old guy who wore a wig who said that a long time ago. We'll figure out who it is, but at least I got the quote right. This idea of anonymity. So first off, is the Spanish prime minister right about something somewhere? That you need IDs to do things, right? You need IDs to go get a hunting weapon, or who was it? It was Benjamin Franklin, not Thomas Jefferson. Tommy, I apologize. Okay, I'm all for IDs, right? And should you be allowed to just put a package in the mail without putting an ID on it and everything else? Like, there's all sorts of things that are legit security concerns, or even we're the guys that are for IDs when you're voting. So, okay, I understand that. But once you take away the ability to be anonymous online, you are putting such a chilling effect. You're basically saying, oh, people who have some thought that's outside of the mainstream, that you're not going to let them anonymously say it, you're going to silence an awful lot of stuff. Now, I say this with a full understanding that people, and it's whenever I look at my mentions on anything where people are saying mean things to me, it's almost always anonymous people. It is at this point very rare that someone not anonymous says anything awful about me or anything like that. It's just very rare. That's how it is at this point. So would it be nice if all of those anonymous things were just blown apart, or are they bots, or are they farmed, or do they, coordinate on Reddit or Telegram? That all may be true, but is the price you want to pay the price of free speech? I don't think so. So there's two things going on there, right? There's one, that they're always focused on the far right instead of the far left, which I would argue is the major threat, or certainly a bigger threat. And then the other part is, do you want to sacrifice free speech in the name of quote unquote safety? Well, we just gave you the Benjamin Franklin quote, and you have to think about that for yourself. This was an interesting moment yesterday at the WEF, because although they are marching ahead on all of their dystopian stuff, some of their leaders are actually acknowledging that Donald Trump has really changed the game here, and that significantly affects their ability to accomplish their goals.
This is the greatest comeback in political history of a politician. And then, therefore, he thinks he can do anything.
We need to also factor in not only who's won, which is Trump, but who's lost, which is to say us. And I guess I would throw into that the epitome of the us who is losing here is Europe. That the European Union and by and large its member states have misread the direction where events were going.
All right, so they're acknowledging it. They're at least having some conversations. Why did Donald Trump appear? Why does populism seem to be rising? Why is it, they're always calling us all far right. I would say, why is it that the right, generally speaking, people who believe in borders and nation states and law and order and things of that nature, why is that growing right now across the world? It's largely because people like the Spanish prime minister is a far leftist, and they've allowed all of these immigrants in and all these things. Like, they need only look at their own agendas to realize what's happening here. But it's good that they're having some sort of, come to Jesus moment, like, oh, we really did misjudge this. And by the way, if we can't get the United States on board our crazy stuff, then it's not going to happen at all. Now I want to jump over to the televised mental institution known as MSNBC, because obviously the other thing that's always going on here that I love talking about is the media component of it. How did this happen? Well, it happened largely because the mainstream media lied about everything, and then the online people were just, hey, let's try it a different way. And here we are. I mean that literally to you watching this, right? So Mika, she's married to Joe over on MSNBC. She had these Pod Save America guys. These are all former Obama staffers who then started doing a podcast. They're all like these soy, can't get a boner guys, and they're like little political insiders, and they're all kind of gross. But what's happening on MSNBC is they're trying to put them on more because they have to figure out, people are tuning out of us in droves. How do we get our online component? The right just can't own the online thing. Anyway, Mika had these guys on to discuss how they can compete with Donald Trump.
What is it that breaks through all of this? That is happening. And to that voter that I told you guys about, who likes Trump, but is going to probably not benefit at all from his policies.
I think the hardest part of getting to that voter is not what we say, but reaching that voter.
Yeah.
And I think part of it is volume. If you look at Donald Trump's inaugural day, he did 3 inauguration speeches. The real one, the overflow, the rally at night, then a press conference, right? It
was a reality show.
Yeah. And when you are playing a volume game, you need rep after rep after rep to make sure it gets clipped on TikTok.
Yeah.
And it gets shared on X. And the algorithms are killing us right now. Like Elon Musk is skewing everything towards the Republican Party. So we need to try even harder.
These people, it's just so pathetic. Yes, it's the algorithms killing you. You guys have Google, you guys have YouTube, you guys have Facebook, you guys have TikTok. We can keep going down. Then one thing came our way and became less manipulated. That's the thing. Elon came in and took his foot off the scale so that everyone would be able to speak freely on there, right? And that's upset you, right? Because you guys want totalitarian control of everything. I will give you Tommy, I think his name was Tommy. I'll give you a little credit there. You're right. Donald Trump does bust his ass. And Donald Trump actually is superhuman when it comes to energy and the ability to have a day like he had on Inauguration Day, where still I was at a party at like 11:30 at night, and they turned on and they had the TVs on, and Donald Trump's still giving a speech somewhere after going to Capitol One, after doing the inauguration, after signing a whole bunch of, like, the guy is a force of nature at this point. So you're right. There's a lot of content there because he's always out there putting out stuff. And you guys put up a diversity hire that nobody liked, that couldn't speak off camera or off script. I'll give you that. But the other part that, this is really just because we've lost control of the algorithms. You guys have owned it all. People don't like your ideas and they don't like you. JPMorgan CEO Jamie Dimon, he's also at the WEF. And Dimon, I think, has been, I would say, over the last year or two, really sort of falling on the right side of all of this, realizing that capitalism is good. He's the CEO of JPMorgan. You might be into capitalism, realizing that freedom is good, realizing that innovation is good, and that's brought him onto the Elon side of things. He talked about that right here.
I'm curious what you think about Doge and what Elon Musk is doing. You've had a frenemy, complicated relationship with Elon Musk over the years, given lawsuits and other things back and forth. What do you think of his role in all of this, and what do you think Doge can actually do?
Elon and I have hugged it out.
You've hugged it out?
Yeah, he came to one of our conferences. He and I had a nice long chat. We've settled some of our differences. And the guy, you got to look at Elon. SpaceX, Tesla, Neuralink. The guy is our Einstein. And so and I like to be helpful to him and his company as much as we can. I think it is completely rational for someone to look at our government and say it's been ineffective. Of the grievances, I would say that you have inner city schools and educations. Income didn't go up for the bottom 20% for the better part of 20 years, literally until the tail end of Trump's first administration. But we deserve good government. And I don't think anyone thinks sending another $1 trillion to Washington, D.C. will lend to good government. So government needs to be more accountable. It needs to be more efficient. It should be outcomes-based. I say department by department, so I wish them the best. It's going to be complicated. The federal government's complicated. You read about all the people in it. And so, if we could be helpful to them, and I'd love to be helpful to them.
Yeah, I think it's fairly obvious why I wanted to show you that clip. That's the Trump effect right there. What did he say at the beginning? Yeah, me and Elon used to have some problems. We just hugged it out. Like, what Trump is now doing is creating this alliance of people, not only political people, but tech people and financial people who are all coming together to solve the problem. And what is the problem? Well, the problem largely is that our government no longer was working for we the people, right? So why wouldn't you want to work with the Albert Einstein of our time instead of trying to destroy him every day, like AOC has spent the last 3 days calling him Hitler on Twitter? Instead of doing that, maybe you'd want to work with the guy who's going to come in and make the government more efficient because he knows a little something about building companies. And then you take Jamie Dimon, who's in charge of probably the most, one of the 3 most powerful financial institutions in the world. And they could kind of come together and figure out, boy, can we make the government more efficient? And he also seemingly understands that just another $1 trillion to the government doesn't do anything. Let me show you a quick clip of Jamie Dimon on 60 Minutes. Basically now repeating the Elon line of how we can make this thing more efficient.
I think every government department should report to you and say, taxpayer, you gave me $50. I told you I was going to do X. Here's what I did. Here's the outcomes.
No, Leslie Stahl. No, I wouldn't want to know that. I'm so busy doing all sorts of things. Why would I want a receipt? But it's so simple. That's the thing. So many of the fixes we have are simple things. Wouldn't it be interesting if whatever department of government, whatever it is, if at the end of a quarter or at the every 6 months, whatever it is, and maybe once a year, they actually issue a report and they're like, we had $1 billion. And here's what we spent the money on. Oh, and it turns out we, because we got rid of DEI departments, we hired more efficient people who were better qualified. Actually, we don't need as much money for next year. The way the government has worked for the last 100+ years is every department hits and it goes above their budget, because then if they don't, their budget goes down. You could never run a business like this where you overspend because someone's just going to give you more money. No, you'd go out of business. But obviously that's not how the government works, right? They're just going to take more money from the taxpayer. So wouldn't it be something if they were just like, and by the way, guys, you're the taxpayers, we work for you. And it turns out we were so good at our job that we cut these budgets, we did this, that, the other thing, and we need a little less from you this year. So how about you keep a bit more of your money? Guys, I think it's happening right now, right in front of our faces, and it's going to have all of the people who tried to destroy Donald Trump all the way through, very apoplectic. Let's talk about Rumble Premium for a moment, and then we'll have more on some of the executive orders and that Trump effect that is also leaking outside of our borders. As you guys know, the war against free speech is in full swing. Rumble, a leader in defending this fundamental human right, has taken a bold stand. Recently, they joined forces with X to sue a cartel of advertisers and ad agencies who conspired to block ad revenue from platforms like Rumble. Even Dunkin' Donuts refused to advertise on Rumble, citing so-called right-wing culture. To push back and rally support, Rumble has launched Rumble Premium, an ad viewing experience packed with perks for both viewers and creators. By upgrading to Rumble Premium, you're not just enhancing your experience, you're actively supporting the fight for free speech. Now's the time to join the movement. Rumble's offering $10 off when you purchase an annual subscription. Just go to rumble.com/premium/Rubin and use promo code Rubin. Like I said, if you have the means and believe in the cause, now's the time to act. And if you don't, we're just grateful to have you watching us right here on Rumble. All right, so I saw this video yesterday and I thought, a meme is worth 1,000 words, right? Like there's just ways, one of the reasons they want to censor us all the time and why Gavin Newsom doesn't want you to be able to put up funny lizard pictures of him and everything else is because the idea of a meme, I mean, what was the original concept here? Like why is a picture worth 1,000 words? Like it can capture something and make you think about something rather than reading it, right? So look at this spliced video of Donald Trump signing the executive order dismantling Biden's gender policies.
10, 15 years ago, could you imagine even talking about these subjects? Think of that. Gender affirming care. It's not going to be a problem. As soon as we get in, it'll all be ended. I'll sign a new executive order instructing every federal agency to cease all programs that promote the concept of sex and gender transition at any age.
Protecting women from radical gender ideologies.
Mr. President, going back to the World Health Organization, you were the president during...
All right, so for those of you on the audio podcast, what you heard first there was 2023, Trump saying, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get this gender BS out of the government. And then, of course, the last few seconds were Trump actually signing the executive order on that. Pretty freaking spectacular. And now to bring this back to the Trump effect, what happens is when you do the right thing, courage is contagious. So Pierre Poilievre, who's the leader of the Canadian Conservative Party right now, well, a lot of people are saying he's going to be the guy that ultimately will replace Justin Trudeau. He was asked about how many genders there are, and I thought his answer was quite good.
Let's go back to D.C. right now. Obviously, on his first day on the job, President Trump signed an executive order, the U.S. government only recognizing two genders, male, female. They're unchangeable. If elected as prime minister, is that something that you're going to kind of walk in line with, or what are your feelings on that executive order?
Well, I don't know. Do you have any other genders that you'd like to name?
Me personally?
Yes.
I'm just asking more so if you're in line with what he is saying. Do you agree with what he's saying? Is that something that you would be lockstep with if elected as prime minister?
Well, I'm not aware of any other genders than men and women. I mean, if you have any other that you want me to consider, you're welcome to tell me right now.
Well, there's personally, I am a man. I am a, as
Okay.
people say, cis man.
That's good.
There
That's
are
good.
people there who, they say they're
Me too.
gender
I'm a man as
neutral.
well.
You are a man.
Totally.
Yes. There are people there who say they're
have something in
gender
common.
neutral. Yeah, they say they're gender neutral. They're a trans person. Is that something that you would recognize here, whereas in the States, at least with their U.S. government, the way they're seeing it, there's only two?
I'm only aware of two, but I mean, if you come up with another list, then you're welcome to do that. But I'm aware of two, and as far as I'm concerned, we should have a government that just minds its own damn business and leaves people alone to make their own personal decisions. That's the kind of government I'm going to run.
All right, so Palihapitiya doesn't have like the pure sort of like alpha television thing that Donald Trump has, but he does have something that's good, which is like a sensible brain, and he knows that there are two genders. And I love, I mentioned yesterday, I like when someone asks Trump a question, then he asks them a question back, because the implication is you're an idiot. And that's exactly what Palihapitiya did right there. Like, can you tell me more than two? And then of course the guy, well, there are people gender neutral, and it's like, that's not a gender. You might be a butch lesbo, doesn't mean you're not a woman. You might be a very effeminate gay guy, doesn't mean you're not a man. You might be a very effeminate straight guy. Look at those Pod Save America guys. I think they're still men. But it's not just the gender thing that's happening, although this is loosely connected to gender. As of 5 p.m. yesterday, well, take a look from Breaking 911, the Trump administration has ordered every government agency to shut down their DEI offices by 5 p.m. tomorrow. So that's right. So that happened yesterday. I was actually on Will Cain's show on Fox like a few minutes before that, and we were discussing, well, what happens now? Because these people don't really have jobs, so I don't know what they're going to do in the private sector. They're not accomplishing anything. But also, like, when they walk out of the office, and most of them work from home anyway, when they would walk out of the office, it's not like an engineer or an electrician or a janitor leaving a building where you'd be like, oh, there's going to be some problems now. Things actually are going to get better very quickly. Now, interesting, it should be noted, and I don't know for how long this is going to last, they are still paid. These DEI people who are now out of work as of 5 p.m. yesterday are still being paid. So we do want to look into that, because I don't want these people to just be on the dole forever. But they did not do anything, guys. This is Doge combined with DEI 101, right? Like, so we are going to make everything more efficient. How are we going to do it? Well, what would be the most inefficient thing we could get rid of in government? It's these crazed departments that get hundreds of millions of dollars to decide if your genitals mean you should be able to analyze foreign policy, which I'm fairly certain has nothing to do with anything. Here's video of National Urban League's Mark Morial, and he's very upset that DEI is DEAD.
Mark Morial, thank you for being here. What is your reaction to this move by President Trump?
It was expected, but it's reprehensible. It is nothing but an effort to repeal the progress that this nation has made over the last 60 years. And it has to be resisted. The executive order is null and void because it seeks to repeal statutory and constitutional values by way of an effective presidential edict. So we'll be gathering today at the National Press Club to discuss, and also, I think, to discuss a series of actions we think we need to take. What DEI is about is giving everyone with merit an opportunity. That's the fundamental value. It's an American value. We'll be fighting for American values.
You know that clip from Billy Madison at the end of the movie, everything you just said there is the stupidest thing and we're all dumber for having listened. Everything you said there was completely wrong. DEI has nothing to do with getting the best people involved. DEI means systemic discrimination, right? Because if you were to say to that guy, if that guy right there, if he had two resumes in front of him, right, and they were exactly the same, but he saw that one guy was black, one guy was white, or one guy was Asian, congratulations, black guy, you're getting the job every time. Now, I don't want the government to discriminate against black people, but color should have nothing to do with any of this. You guys all know it. And also, when he talks about our constitutional values, everything you just laid out there was counter to our constitutional values. But it's not just the DEI and the woke nonsense that Trump is getting rid of via executive action. Take a look at this from Leading Report. Breaking, President Trump has signed an executive order shutting down all migrant entry across the southern border. So yes, guys, we can do things when we want to. And not only can we do things when we want to, who was that elderly guy that we're not going to talk about anymore? That Joe Biden fella? He could have ended this nonsense if he wanted to, but they didn't want to, right? He didn't need a bipartisan deal or anything else to close the border. All he had to do was not reverse the orders. He'd something like 70 reversals of Donald Trump orders the day Joe Biden got into office. And guess what? We're protecting the border now. We read you the information yesterday about how the Coast Guard is now going to be protecting South Florida to make sure Cuban or Haitian immigrants aren't coming in. We're going to send more troops to Arizona, to Texas, et cetera. And we are sending a message. It's two things. It's like we're going to protect the border, and then also we're going to amplify the message across the world. You just can't come in right now. Sorry, we got some house cleaning we need to take care of, and that's exactly what we're going to do. Now let's get into one that's a bit more controversial here, because Donald Trump also signed an executive order clarifying the definition of birthright citizenship. So take a look at that.
What might be your first step?
This next order relates to the definition of birthright citizenship under the 14th Amendment of the United States.
That's a good one. Birthright. That's a big one.
What about that one in the court? That one is likely to be passed.
Could be. I think we have good ground, but you could be right. I mean, you'll find out. It's ridiculous. We're the only country in the world that does this with birthright, as you know. And it's just absolutely ridiculous. But, you know, we'll see. We think we have very good ground.
I have to say, guys, it's such a freaking sea change what's happening right now. So I'll give you the exact definition from Senate.gov of what the 14th Amendment is and what birthright citizenship is. But the way Donald Trump just did that, speaking off the top of his head, someone says to him, as he's signing a reversal on birthright citizenship, meaning if you're born here, you are automatically a citizen of the United States. They ask him, is there going to be a legal fight? And he says, there will be. Like, there could be. We will see what happens. He's doing what he thinks is right, and then it ends up in the courts. And the courts can decide if it's legal or not. That's how the system is supposed to work. But even the general idea that he would be signing an executive action and acknowledging that there's going to be a court fight about this is right. So now, just to give you the specific granular definition, the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution grants citizenship to all people born or naturalized in the U.S. and guarantees equal protection under the law. It also prohibits states from depriving people of life, liberty, or property without due process. So really think about this. Someone could come to the United States on vacation. You're 7 months pregnant. You come to the United States on vacation and you have the baby early for whatever reason. Suddenly that baby would be a citizen of the United States. Does that seem right to you? Does it seem right to you that someone would illegally come here and then just have a kid here? This is what they call anchor babies. So there's a philosophical debate to have about that, right? Think about it this way. If an American was 7 months pregnant and she had a baby in China, do you think China would be like, okay, that baby's Chinese? Like, it's completely absurd, right? It's completely absurd. So this will get hung up in the courts because his reversal of that, if it is the 14th Amendment, right? So you can't remove an amendment from the Constitution via an executive action. So there's going to be a fight here, and we'll see what happens. Here's California Attorney General Rob Bonta saying that he's going to take Trump to court over this.
That's right. We've been preparing for weeks and months. Our ability to move quickly with our briefs and our filing, and many states working together is proof positive of that. The president did make a promise on birthright citizenship and revoking it, and I made a promise too, and I'm keeping it, that I will see you in court when you break the law and violate the U.S. Constitution. That promise applies here, and it applies to any other action that he takes. We're looking closely at his other executive orders, including trying to use the military for civil immigration enforcement activities on American soil. We're looking at some of the other executive orders, how they impact our transgender communities. And so we expect this not to be the first overreach and unlawful and unconstitutional action by the president. And every time and any time he violates the law, it violates the U.S. Constitution, we will see him in court and we will stop him.
All right, so this Rob Bonta is a freaking clown. Now, I just acknowledge there's going to be a legal fight here for sure. But yes, Trump is doing things to our trans communities and using the military to deal with immigration. These are all completely, you get the point on that. I don't even need to deal with that. But might I say to you, Rob Bonta, as the Attorney General of California, have you seen the lawlessness and criminality that is taking place in your state every day? Why is it that for a brief moment when I was in the Westwood Mall in Los Angeles, I thought about walking into Lululemon and taking a couple of those tank tops because only a sucker would pay for them. But that's what you guys have instigated there. I'm not doing it, but other people are, right? You don't arrest criminals. You don't arrest drug dealers. You allow homeless people to put encampments wherever they want. So you are a freaking joke. Deal with your own house, the state of California, before you deal with the rest of that. But however, all of that being said, there is going to be a legal fight over it. And it's worth thinking about for you watching this. Like, does birthright citizenship really make sense? How does this actually make sense? Someone's here on vacation, they have a baby, congratulations, baby, you're here. And then we're gonna somehow figure out a way to get mama here too. You're automatically a citizen. Or you literally illegally come here and have a kid and now you're automatically a citizen. It just simply does not make sense. That doesn't mean it's legal or illegal. We're gonna have to figure that out and there's gonna be a fight about that. But I wanna show you a little more of the Trump effect because other Republicans are now finally getting a backbone, but like a ramrod. Somebody used to say that. Here's House Speaker Mike Johnson talking to Hannity about how disaster aid to Cali could be cut if they don't follow some of these new laws as it pertains to illegal immigration.
Are you saying that California, if they continue to aid and abet law breaking and harbor illegal immigrants, money from D.C. gets cut off?
Yeah, we're talking about conditions to this disaster aid. Look, there are natural disasters, but there are man-made disasters as well, and they made terrible decisions. You know, they knew exactly what they were doing. That reservoir outside Pacific Palisades, 117 million gallons. It was empty for a year. Why? They were trying to save a smelt fish or something. I mean, their policies are upside down. They made decisions that made that disaster exponentially worse, and this is what the American taxpayer is demanding of us everywhere else in the country.
Put take it a step further.
Yeah.
There's a new sheriff in town, and it's obvious, right? Like, Republicans are usually useless, but suddenly they're like, oh, there's that golden man, and he's talking about a golden age. So maybe we will start doing things properly. So if California wants to be a largely lawless country of its own, they think of it as its own country. If it wants to be its own country, state, whatever you want to call it, and not pay attention to any of the new laws that we're bringing in here, and it wants to let all these illegals in, because the thing is, this is a problem for everybody. It doesn't just stay in Cali. If you let all of these people come in through Tijuana, let's say, well, then once they're in Cali, they can get on a flight and get anywhere, or they can get in a U-Haul and get anywhere, right? Like, so good for Mike Johnson. How about we start doing the right things? And Cali, sorry, you're not going to play ball with the federal government? Well, the federal government won't play ball with you. One more before we get to the community Q&A. You guys know Eric Swalwell. He is an increasingly irrelevant Democrat member of Congress from Northern Cali. He's the guy that farted with Chris Matthews on MSNBC. And here he is talking about the future thought leaders for the Democrats. And if you don't think that these people are screwed long term, well, here is Exhibit 32A.
Who is the elder statesman that can help push and cajole and influence the Democratic Party to find a more solid ground?
I think one of our best thought leaders is Mark Cuban. I think he's
Mark Cuban. Really?
Mark Cuban, yeah, he's very influential.
Really?
Has a lot of relationships with my colleagues and myself. He has business experience, but I think he's also not lost touch of like what regular people care about. And I thought he was an effective surrogate for Kamala being out there on the trail. But I go to Mark on a lot of stuff, and I think he understands where most people are.
You got to love Chamath's response like there. He's like, Mark Cuban. Mark and Cuban? Are you? Yes, congratulations. Like, if that's what you've got left, Dems, I get it. You have a radical, psychotic, America-hating base and the squad and that thing. So if the best guy you have left is Mark Cuban, who has been wrong about absolutely everything as he has slowly morphed into Rachel Maddow, good luck with all of that. Guys, we got a community Q&A on the other side, but first let me talk to you about lean. Are you tired of hearing the same over-the-top weight loss promises? Take this magic pill and you'll never have to exercise. Lose 50 pounds in a month with just one shake. Well, we all know it's not that simple. That's why I want to introduce you to Lean, the real deal for weight loss. When you take Lean, you're choosing a solution created by a medical doctor and university researcher, not a gimmick. Here's what sets Lean apart. The clinical team behind it is up front. They say if you only have a few pounds to lose, non-prescription Lean isn't for you. Just exercise a little more. more. But if you're a frustrated dieter looking to lose meaningful weight without resorting to injections, Lean might be exactly what you've been waiting for. Here's why. Injections work by lowering blood sugar and regulating appetite, but they can come with side effects. Lean takes a smarter, natural approach using clinical studied ingredients that target weight loss in similar ways. Lean helps maintain healthy blood sugar levels. It curbs appetite and cravings. It burns fat by converting it into energy. If you're ready to lose weight the smarter way, I've got a special offer for you. Go to takelean.com and use code DAVE20 at checkout for 20% off your first order. That's code DAVE20 at takelean.com. Don't wait. Start your weight loss journey today with Lean. All right, RubinReport.locals.com community Q&A. If you want to get something in on the fly while we are live right now, Dia's at a computer over there, and she will see your questions. So we'll see what happens. Susan says, when you run into somebody like J.D. Vance at a party, what kind of questions do you ask him, or what do you talk about with someone like that? So I did bump into the vice president. That was at Peter Thiel's party, which Zuckerberg was there, and Sam Altman, the AI guy, and Ted Cruz was there, and Mike Johnson was there. And it was, not a huge house. So everyone was in pretty tight quarters. Clearly, we had a really nice moment right there. I just basically said something. Well, first off, it was hard. Everybody, obviously, JD was even though these tech guys are influential and powerful and blah, blah, blah. Obviously, the incoming VP is the guy everyone wants to talk to. And now he's got tons of Secret Service and all of that kind of thing. I happened to be standing sort of by the door as they were ushering him out. And I just went over to him. I saw a Secret Service guy kind of lean towards me, but it seemed like he either knew me or something, like they didn't think I was any kind of threat. And I tapped him and I said, Mr. VP, I said something like, I think I gave you your first media appearance on my podcast way back when. Which, do we have an image of that? I think we're working on getting an image. So that was JD. This is from the fall of 2020, and JD fall of 2021, not 2020. But this is before JD was even a senator. I had him on very, very early. I think it was like his kind of first big profile interview as a candidate. And just to watch his rise is just awesome. And, he congratulated me on my success and was, he said something like, isn't this so cool or something? And I was like, yeah, it is cool. It's pretty great. And it's like, he's a good one. And he has had virtually no missteps throughout any of this. He crushed it in the debate. And he's just got a good sense of humor. Like can you throw the picture up one more time? Like the smile, like it's genuine. Like you could see, the other picture, sorry. You could just see like the smile is genuine. He was happy to see me. He realizes how great this is, that this whole thing has come together, and it's pretty sweet. So there you go. A Different View says, have you inquired or have been informed by President Trump or someone else that the White House will admit podcasters such as yourself, Tim Pool, TYT Daily Wire into the White House briefing room in order to ask questions like Legacy News has done for so long? So I haven't asked specifically. But it does sound like that is going to happen. They're going to credential all kinds of different people. And I do know for a fact, I think they announced it yesterday, that the Daily Wire already has credentials. So I'm not going to try to get credentials in that sense, like that I want to be there every day. But I think we are well connected enough at this point that we will have access. So if I happen to be in DC for a couple of days doing interviews, that we'll be able to get into the press the press room and hopefully ask some questions of Caroline Leavitt or whoever the press secretary is on that given day, or whoever's up there, and just get more access in general to the Republican senators and to the White House and everything else. So yeah, it's great that this is happening. And by the way, it's happening as it should, right? Like, should MSNBC and CNN and Fox and blah, 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 should they always get all those first questions? Or is the next step of all of this the exact extension of the way Donald Trump campaigned, which was talking to the online people? So I think it's happening. It's very cool. And yeah, I'm sure we'll be there throughout the year. Daniel says, Dave, if you were to be animated in the claymated show Celebrity Deathmatch, who do you think you would be pitted against and who would win? So Celebrity Deathmatch, which I think it was on MTV years and years ago. Do we have any video of that? So this was Celebrity Deathmatch. It was like a weekly show where they just take these claymation celebrities and have them basically kick the crap out of each other and say funny things and, blah, blah, blah. So who would I fight in Celebrity Deathmatch? I guess it would be that disgusting blob-like creature that I used to work for, Cenk Uygur, and because he would look like a giant slovenly Play-Doh-like character. It would be tricky to beat him though, because you'd punch him and I feel like it would just go in, you know what I mean? And then you'd be stuck and they'd be enveloping you and it would be awful and horrible. I guess you would just probably have to throw a hamburger outside the ring and then he would chase it. And then because he goes over the 3 ropes, you'd be like, CDH Free SC says, hey Dave, do you think the GOP will have the balls to stand up and fight for the cabinet nominees? Funny how the GOP approves Dem cabinet members in a heartbeat, but the Dems want to block and tackle. That's the fundamental difference between the two parties. Well, I think, and it's been illustrated throughout the show, I think this is a new Republican Party right now. I think they needed a leader, they found a leader, and it's giving them all a little bit of juice. So I think virtually everybody is going to get through. I think Susan Collins might be a bit of a problem for Tulsi. But it seems like, Hegseth, it's going to be 50-50 and then JD will break the tie. So that one should be fine. Marco already got through. They seemingly, I think, like it would be insane if Bobby doesn't get through. So Tulsi, I guess, will be the slightly more complex one, but I did talk to her and she thinks she will be confirmed and she's doing everything she can to, qualm any questions they have about her. The thing with Tulsi is they're going to go, oh, but you used to say this about Syria or Assad or blah, blah. But she has evolved and it's been very, very public, right? And so you'll be able to see it. It's not that she just changed her opinions over time. Like she's been on interviews. I mean, I've interviewed her multiple times about her political evolution. So I think they're going to try to hit her on some of the stuff she said years ago. But I just know her well enough to know that she can explain this stuff properly. And that it is genuine. So I think they're basically all going to go through. But the heart of your question is, are Republicans going to be better this time? And I think the answer is yes. Sarah Connors says, hey Dave, welcome to the Golden Ages. Would it be possible for us in your community to ask guests that you have in for the sit-downs a couple questions when they come in for the interview? Like you post a few days before the interview who you're having on, and then you pick the top 2 or 3 questions in the interview. We've thought of this before, and I'm a little conflicted because I see other interviewers do it. I see this happen on Twitter all the time. People will be like, oh, I have this person coming in. I have the president on. I have this guy, that one, whatever, this celebrity. What do you want me to ask them? And I always think, like, as an interviewer, that just feels so thin. Like, what am I doing with my life if as an interviewer I can't think of the questions that I would want to sit down with somebody? However, you guys often, and I mention this particularly with the locals community, you guys often say things or spark an idea in my head or something that makes me think about something in a new way or frames it differently or whatever it might be. So you know what we will do? For the next 4 interviews, we will try it. We're going to give it a test run. For the next 4 interviews that I do, we will choose one question from the locals community. We'll post who it is a day or 2 before, and we'll throw in one of your questions, and we'll kind of see how we feel about it. Because again, I sort of feel like it's my job to ask the best questions possible, but I am definitely open to some version of that, so stay tuned. Lynn says, Trump promised to release the JFK, RFK, and MLK files. Do you think he will keep his word? It will be a big disappointment because he made a point he would do it. So was there any, can you Google, is anything happening on that today? I thought I saw something yesterday that said something about maybe the JFK things. Look, my guess is he's going to do it. And my guess also is there's not going to be that much to be found from it. Meaning that when people think of the files, I think a lot of people think it's going to be like, oh, we're going to hand you over like this 20-page, like airtight report on what actually happened, and it's going to be so disconnected from what we were told. There will definitely be some disconnections, but I think when they release the files, I think what that means is document dumps that are absolutely crazy and huge, and you're going to have all of the internet sleuths going down every rabbit hole and everything else, and maybe we will find some information. But yeah, my suspicion is he will do it. I don't know if it happens right now. Like he's dealing with like the serious immediate stuff right now. Border, the woke bullshit, like all of that. I do think he will do it, but I don't think it's going to, I think people are waiting and it's going to be like, oh my God, because I did know that, that guy killed JFK and blah, blah. I don't think it's like that. I think it's just going to be a document dump that then people will have to look into and come to some conclusions, but we'll see. Carol says, what books are you reading to your sons? I'm having trouble picking out books for my great nieces and great nephew. I went to Barnes & Noble children's section and 90% of the books are like crap. So we do take the kids to Barnes & Nobles. They love, 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 love reading. And yeah, Barnes & Noble, it's tricky because there still are a lot of woke books and gender and skin color books in the children's section, which is kind of gross. They also keep a lot of toys in the book section for kids. So then they end up wanting to grab all the toys and all that stuff. But I did bust out a couple of the books that we're reading right now. I do like this one. Where do diggers sleep at night? And it's got a whole bunch of different, the boys are really into trucks right now. So it's got a whole bunch of different trucks. You go through each one and how each one wraps up their night. And one of the things that's nice about kids' books, the good ones I find, because you're usually reading them at night before bed, or at least that's what we do. A lot of the good books, eventually the main character goes to sleep at night. So then that's the cue for the kids to go to sleep. So I do like this one. The tractor's doing all sorts of stuff. The excavator, they're really into the excavator. I think I've mentioned this book before. It's The Golden Girls, Good Night Girls, and it's Sophia putting Blanche, Dorothy, and Rose to bed, and they have to do all these things. They eat some cheesecake. You know, people always wonder why they were up all night. They were drinking coffee at like 11 p.m. every night. That's not good for you, and all that sugar. But the girls do all sorts of fun. These are all like references from the show. They're dancing. They're dressed up like cats. I know that there's Stan and what was his name? Rose's boyfriend, Miles. And then she puts them all to bed. There's a St. Olaf story. And then this one, I think you'll really appreciate. This is one of my favorites. F is for Florida. And yeah, you go through the entire alphabet, and these are all Florida-related different things that they learn. J is for jazz. There might be a little jazz out there on the beach. What else? I is for islands. L is for Lake Okeechobee. K is for Keys. M is for manatee, etc., etc. That's what we're doing anyway. So good luck finding books though. It's and then we do corduroy and some of the more standard stuff, Curious George, et cetera, et cetera. Something weird's going on with the guy with the yellow hat. Like, what's his deal? Frank says, hi Dave. What's your take on DeSantis's ban on lab-grown meat? I would never eat it myself, but I heard some people say that we should let the market decide and that consumers should choose with their wallets if they want to buy it or not. Yeah, so is it an official, can you Google that quick? Is it an official ban? Yeah, Florida bans lab-grown meat. Wow, Connor, you're ahead of me here. Adding to similar efforts in 3 new states, companies that have made strides in cultivated meat technology said Florida's law stifles innovation in a space that's becoming competitive globally. Look, DeSantis's calculation on this, I remember when they were trying to push it through. I just wasn't sure if it was fully there. His calculation basically was, this is an attack on the WEF. You guys want us to eat bugs, while I always say you guys will eat the foie gras, you guys will eat the filet mignon and all of those things, and we're just not going to do that, right? So I understand the inclination, but I always fall on the side of freedom. So should people who want to eat lab-grown meat be able to eat lab-grown meat? Yeah, you probably should be able to. It's a freedom of choice issue. I don't want any of that. You know our feelings about steak in this house. But should people be able to, even if it turns out that lab-grown meat is not as good for you? You know, people eat all this like fake meat stuff and Beyond Meat, and there's so many oils in there and often all sorts of other ingredients. You think you're being healthy. I'm having a veggie patty, but then it turns out, boy, it has all this crazy oil. There's more calories, et cetera, et cetera. So, but as a general rule, to answer your question clearly, I'm always on the side of freedom and competition. So there you go. Guys, let's talk about BHMD1 for a moment, and then more questions when we get back. We've been told our whole lives that wrinkle creams were the easiest way to look younger. Now, one doctor says that's nothing but old news. According to Dr. John Lake, the world-renowned Beverly Hills beauty expert, most wrinkle fixes on the market are nothing but glorified moisturizers. They hardly make a dent on your appearance, and some can even be harmful to your skin, he said. Recently, Dr. Lake has focused his attention away from mainstream cosmetic practices. Why? So he can pursue a revolutionary anti-aging breakthrough, one that some experts say could empty the wallets of the cosmetic industry. It's almost like Photoshop for your face. You may even be mad after seeing how easy it is to visibly erase your wrinkles from view, Lake told reporters. His personal clients have dubbed his new do-it-yourself technique the age rewinder method because it can take years or even decades off your appearance in under 2 minutes. In light of this amazing breakthrough, Dr. Lake has released a step-by-step video to the public, free and uninterrupted, where he outlines exactly how to use this simple solution from home. You can find out more about this yourself right now. Go to bhmd1.com/Rubin or click the link in the description box below. That's bhmd1.com/Rubin. Again, go watch the video at bhmd1.com/Rubin right now, or just click the link in the description box below. Pretty sure I had too much coffee before that ad. That was very fast. Joe says, any guesses on who wins the Super Bowl this year? We're down to 4. Washington, Philadelphia, Buffalo, and Kansas City. And on that note, what will be on the menu for the Super Bowl party? February 9th will be here soon. We just officially decide during the break there is going to be a Rubin Report Super Bowl party. There will be lots and lots of wings made all sorts of different ways. I have a great wing recipe. I think I've put it in the Locals community before, but with an air fryer, you can make the crispiest freaking wings, and then you figure out what sauces you want. We do make like a homemade buffalo, but you can do all kinds of teriyaki, garlic, like all kinds of good stuff. But air fryers are so freaking good in general, but for wings particularly, there's just no need to deep fry a wing anymore. There just isn't. Who do I think is going to win? I'm not a huge football guy generally, but I am going to go, in light of the golden age, I am going to go with the Washington Commanders. And how about this? The Washington Commanders will win the Super Bowl, and then next season, by the time the season starts, will be renamed the Washington Redskins. That is a bold prediction right there, but that's what I'm going for. Yeah, so the Redskins are now the Commanders. Since I'm not a huge football guy, I did ask Connor who he thought, and you think the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't want them to. You don't want them to, but you think they might. I think you said something about cheating. We'll have to find out more about that later. So Commanders are going to win the Super Bowl. Book it. Chipster says, Trump mentioned no tax on tips in one of his addresses, but not to tax on Social Security. How do these things actually get done? So you're asking me about like the granular mechanism for it. I'm not sure you can do that via executive action, can you? Can you say no tax on tips via an executive order? I will look more into the legality of that. The concept, so I'll talk about the concept for a moment. Conceptually, 100% I'm on board. Like, let people who are in the service industry, who are not paid a lot, who work hard, let them keep more of their money, right? That would be good, right? I think it has to be a law, so it would have to be brought to Congress, and it would have to be signed off on. So I don't think that's something he can do via executive action. So I'm sure there's somebody in Congress right now that wants to get ahead of that, and they're probably trying to write it up right now. But I'm completely for both of that, and same on Social Security. Margaret MD says, regarding the progressive woke Episcopal bishop that spoke at the National Prayer Breakfast, it made me wonder if you're aware if there are any progressive rabbis in the U.S. who are leading their congregations away from their faith in a similar way. I think we have a picture of the bishop. First off, let me just quickly address, the speech, as I said yesterday, it was really unbelievably awful. And the fact that that religion has been so politicized and that so many people of various faiths, people that are leaders in those faiths, think they should use the pulpit for political purposes it's absurd, and it's an affront to whatever religion it might be. That's number one. There are an awful lot of reform rabbis. Reform is, there's basically 3 main branches of Judaism in that sense. There's Orthodox, so these are the people that are the most religious, Ben Shapiro, let's say. Then there's conservative, so these are the people that have a lot of the beliefs and traditions, but are not necessarily following all of the laws. And then there's reform, which is basically like, I watch Seinfeld every couple weeks, and I have a bagel with lox, I'm a Jew, that kind of thing. And those are the people who have their synagogues largely have gone completely woke and crazy, virtually the exact same thing that you're seeing out of the Episcopal bishop there. And it's just a shame. It's just a shame because they've just, and this is why wokeness was so dangerous. It infiltrates once it's in the institution, whatever the institution it is, whether it's a temple or a church or it literally doesn't matter whether it is a video game company or a shoe store, it infects the entire thing. So all of these institutions have a hell of a lot of work to do. I should note on that my friend Dennis Prager, who's going through an awful lot right now, and we're still praying for him. He was not a rabbi, but he did do, I think I've mentioned this a couple times on the show, he did do high holiday services in Los Angeles. So he would do services for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and hundreds, like 500 people would go, usually various locations. And I went to many of them and really, really enjoyed it. And he would always make a point, even though most of the people there were there for him, right? They were there for Dennis Prager. They were listeners of his radio show and all of this stuff. He would always make a point of saying, I'm not doing politics up here. He said, if you want to grab me after to do a little politics in the parking lot, maybe we could do that, but I'd prefer not to do that too on these holy days. But he would never make it political. And this is a guy who lives and breathes politics, who wasn't even a rabbi, and yet he was more respectful of the actual reasons that people were supposed to be there on a holiday than so many of these people. So all of these religious institutions have a lot of cleaning up to do. I wonder if there are imams out there who are talking about trans kids. Makes me wonder. Jan says, I'm so grateful Obama didn't get a fourth term after all. Thanks for all you and your team do for the country. Oh, it's not a question, but I appreciate that. And yes, Obama's fourth term gone. Shelly V, hey Dave, it's been a struggle to get to this point. Worth the effort with 47 back in the White House. Thank you for all your efforts in saying the truth no matter how difficult the situation. With the events of the last year, will you be incorporating them into the book you're writing? So I'm finally, well, thanks for the kind words. I'm finally getting to book number 3. And I've always envisioned, once I started writing Don't Burn This Book, which that I was writing in 2019 mostly. Once I was writing that and realized that I enjoyed writing, which I hadn't done for a long time, then I started thinking of it as 3 books, because the idea was in Don't Burn This Book, it was basically like, here are my classically liberal beliefs, and then it had like a bit of autobiographical stuff to kind of make it feel like a full story. And then Don't Burn This Country was like, man, if we don't defend the ideas in the first book, in Don't Burn This Book, then what's going to happen to the country? And I think I laid it out pretty damn well, and my track record on predicting a lot of this was right. And then for the last year, I've had the itch to write again, and my editors and everybody are like, Dave, let's do it again. But I really felt I couldn't do it until we had the results of the election, because had Kamala won, think how we would be sitting here right now and what our prospects for the future of America and the West and all of those things would be. It's so profoundly different. You don't want to write a book that just has a limited shelf life because of an election. But I was like, the country is at such a freaking crossroads here that I have to wait. So finally, I've started writing the outline. I'm talking to my editor again, yeah, we're gonna do something. Which if I can somehow get it done by maybe, if I can finish it off when I'm off the grid in August, probably we could get this thing. It would be about a year from now that we could get it out, but hopefully a lot of good things will happen in that year. All right, guys, that is our show for today. We do have a newly relaunched DaveRubin.store. If you want to get some merch, I thank you for watching. And despite all the questions I answered here, I will do a few more in the Rubin Report.locals.com community post-game show in just moments. Thanks for watching. Oh, and Adam Carolla will be joining us live on air tomorrow. Goodbye.